Ukraine is getting inundated every single day with hundreds of phone calls from Russian soldiers wanting to surrender every single day, troops. It's getting absolutely hammered, that phone line. So has Russia got a bigger problem on the front lines than the news is giving out? Well, we're going to look into that today, guys. Before we get into it, please like, share and subscribe to the channel and join the Patreon. It's linked in the description if you haven't done so already for uncensored ad-free content. Other than that, enjoy this one, troops. We've got quite a bit to get through today. So, first thing is a bit of a video for a couple of minutes. It's titled Ukraine Hotline, I Want to Live is calling Russians to surrender. I didn't even know this existed up until a couple of months ago. I think it was created in September this year. So yeah, it's relatively new. Let's listen to what has to be said on this video.
Hello, this is the Center for Surrender into Captivity.
Hello? I was given this number and was told that this is how you can voluntarily surrender. I'm in Kherson region.
First, can you please go on Telegram, find the I Want to Live chatbot and complete the questionnaire?
Right, so these voices are actually protected to protect the individual who's calling in, so the voices are disguised. But yeah, depending on who's watching this video, you can find the group on Telegram, apparently.
I can't. They took our phones. I just don't understand exactly what to do when Ukrainians come. Do I drop to my knees or what?
When you're on the front line, call us right away.
I'm not alone here. There's a group of people. They say here in Russia they will put us to jail for 10 years.
Wow, so you can get put in jail for 10 years if you call the hotline if you want to surrender. So it's not just the fact that they've got to worry about dying on the front lines. That's their main problem, obviously. But they've got other problems. They can't surrender as easy as you'd like to think. The white flag, you know, if they don't want to be there because they risk getting put in jail for 10 years. Absolutely outrageous, troops.
Often it's part desperate, part frustrated or lost because they don't fully understand how the hotline works and whether it's not just a setup.
Once they're located, more instructions are given. We're not told what they are.
We haven't been mobilized yet, but we are already here. I will purposefully speak in a convoluted way. When do I call?
For more information and save time, go to our Telegram channel called I Want to Live.
So it's not fake?
It's the only channel where all official information is posted about procedures and how things happen. You don't have to leave your phone number because it identifies you. And we really recommend you having an old phone handset on you.
Okay, I'll take a closer look.
Okay, so he's obviously, you know, really, really scared to do this in the first place, which is, it's heart-wrenching in a way, you know. You think, like, I'm not trying to feel sorry for the enemy and stuff, but the Ukrainians, you know, they're trying to give the better way out for these individuals who want to, and a lot of them are, hundreds per day, I believe, are ringing this hotline to get out of this war, and Russia's making it pretty hard for them, okay? You know, 10 years and probably is getting beaten to bits every other week as well, but yeah, it is what it is, troops. So the Ukrainian government has said a scheme it created for Russian soldiers to surrender is getting up to 100 inquiries a day. The I Want to Live project was started in September, not so long ago. By calling a hotline or entering details through messenger apps, Russian troops can arrange the best way to surrender in Ukrainian forces. Officials in Kiev say they've had more than 3,500 contacts from invading personnel as well as their families. There's been an apparent increase since Russia's President Vladimir Putin mobilized hundreds of thousands of Russian men and since the city Kherson was liberated. The BBC has given recordings for some of the calls, as we've just listened to, and as the dark hallways suggest, Ukrainian headquarters for the treatment of prisoners of war isn't immune to the power blackouts which plague the country. In a small office, we met Svetlana, not a real name, a Ukrainian call handler who speaks to Russian soldiers daily. They can either get in touch over the phone or on most messenger apps such as Telegram and WhatsApp. She explains the evenings are busiest when troops have more spare time and can sneak off and make a call. First of all, we hear a voice, mainly male, she explains. It's often part desperate, part frustrated because they don't fully understand how the hotline works or whether it's just a setup. There's also curiosity because many can call not to surrender but to find out how they could if needed. It's different every time. So we've got a post here from someone who's obviously getting in contact, probably is on Telegram. The person saying, I just don't understand what to do when Ukrainians come. Do I drop to my knees or what do I do? How do I surrender? When you're on the front line, call us right away. So Svetlana isn't allowed to tell us how many Russian soldiers she's helped or exactly how it happens. They're just told to share their location before being given further instructions. It's obviously for operational security purposes. Troops, they're trying to keep it as neat and as professional as possible, obviously abiding to the Geneva Conventions themselves. The rules of war, all right? They're trying to do things the humane way. There is inhumane things happen in war all of the time, but they're trying to do things the best way, and you've got to give them credit for that, okay? Now, some Russian soldiers also get in touch to provoke them, she says, although she doesn't think all of them believe the Kremlin baseless claims that Ukraine is run by Nazis. We can't judge an entire country, she says. The majority of them are worried about their lives. Svetlana also recalls a call from one man who lived in occupied Crimea and had been mobilized to fight against his own family and country. That's terrible. It seems Moscow has now blocked the phone numbers from being reached inside Russia. Calls from either a UK or Russian SIM card are generated with an error message. So they've stopped they've stopped the Russians being able to actually get in contact in the first place. All right, it's absolutely terrible, troops. But there's plenty of evidence coming out that this phone line is hotting up every single day. So taken to Twitter to see what the latest posts are. There's quite a lot on this Russian mass surrender claims, thousands of calls on this surrender hotline. You see Putin there, troops refusing to fight. We knew this was coming. It's highlighted, Russian troops raise the white flag in Kherson as Ukraine claims thousands of calls on surrender hotline. Jeffrey Silverman says, brilliant genius Ukraine, #Slava Ukraine. Hundreds of call Ukraine surrender hotline for Russian soldiers. Video there we've just watched. Melissa Shell says, if he ever chooses to be being impressed into it, tell him that to call Ukraine's safety surrender hotline. They treat prisoners of war by the Geneva Convention and other international conventions, unlike those held in Russia. Just tell him not to commit perfidy during it, though that's a crime. So we've got a lot of interest on different social media outlets and stuff. This is actually happening, guys. It's happening. It seems to be quite a lot as well, which is both worrying, in terms of... it's worrying and it's good because it's obviously good for Ukraine, isn't it, when you think about it? So let's get into a bit of a map study. Not too much happening on the front lines and stuff. We know that Bakhmut is under, massive amounts of pressure at this moment in time. It's been classed many times over as a meat grinder. There's no real strategic value in certain areas of Bakhmut, although I can bring out my own strategic value in terms of certain areas that are good for logistics and stuff. But the grand overall scheme of things, Bakhmut doesn't really pose that much interest tactically at all, really, in regards to the amount of resources that's being pushed that way. That's for sure. That's what I mean. So in terms of latest update, the enemy finally captured Novoselsky, which is the north, I believe. We'll zoom out a little bit, northeastern area. Yeah, so it's northeast of the Borova Reservoir. We understand that this is where the original counteroffensive, this massive chunk of land, took place, and we just boom straight in. This little settlement here doesn't look too big when we measure it up. What we talking here? So yeah, we're talking meters really for this part anyway. Yeah, 3 kilometers square. So it's a tiny portion of land in this settlement here. Although the grand scheme of things, when you move further eastward, it becomes slightly bigger. But you're pushing on to Kazimivka, which is a different settlement there. But the enemy has taken that. Obviously, yesterday it was partially taken. A couple of days before, they've been trying to push on through, and the enemy has actually taken this land back, guys, which is in this area here, which is bad for Ukraine. Ukraine, if you think about it, because, you know, you don't want to be pushed further back into this direction. Is there anything strategically valuable as they push further? You know, you've got a couple of settlements and stuff from these areas, from the settlement which they've just taken. You've got a little settlement there. But then, you know, you're pushing people back to the Borova River, the reservoir, the Oskil Reservoir. In terms of strategic value, we understand that that does hold quite a lot of strategic value if you can defend it well and correctly. Russia failed with that in the early days anyway, so I don't see them ever pushing or being able to push Ukraine that far back. This is a small victory for Russia, but in terms of the overall grand scheme of things, is this little settlement going to give Russia anything pertinent going forward? No, I don't think so. I see Ukraine probably taking this back in due course, guys, okay? But nothing much else happening in terms of major updates on the deep state map. When the information comes out, we'll be the first people to be able to give you that information, troops. But if you are still here 10 minutes in, thank you guys. I might get another video out later on tonight, but I just want to emphasize one thing. Please consider joining the Patreon. We are putting videos out multiple times per week now, uncensored ad-free content. You can donate or pledge as much as you want on there, and it would be nice to get a few more members over on the Patreon. I'm really enjoying it over there, guys. But other than that, thank you very much for stopping by, and I'll see you in the next video, troops. Drop a comment and I'll see you in the comments. Peace.